Hello and welcome back to Karma Stories. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have some stories for you from a subreddit we haven't touched on in a while. It's r/TalesFromTheSquadCar. Before we start today, make sure to check out my Patreon where I've just released a very brutal story that will go down in Reddit lore as one of the most brutal stories ever shared there. It's about a guy who discovers that his wife is cheating, and when he confronts her, she does the unthinkable. It's definitely not appropriate for YouTube. It's over on my Patreon, and you can check that out for yourself at the link in the description down below or at patreon.com/karmastories. Alright, on to today's stories though. Let's jump right in. This story comes to us from a state trooper named Two Blue Zebras. Just another Tuesday. I was working the swing shift, which is my least favorite shift, primarily because of the last minute calls. Shift usually ended around 9 p.m., 2100 hours, which was late enough for drunks to be out, but early enough for there to still be some traffic. One thing I enjoyed about that shift was the chaos. If you wanted to be busy, swing shift will do that for you. It was raining and the sun had just set. Rain is always a nightmare for a trooper. Enforcement is limited because we're usually going crash to crash. Dispatch to Unit 2, emergency crash. We have 3 different levels of crash calls, and this was the worst type. I keyed up in response, go ahead. Unit 2, emergency crash, eastbound I-35 at Main Street, reporting 3 vehicles involved. Callers report an ambulance has overturned, multiple lanes blocked. Ambulance is, en route. Dispatch kinda trailed off as she realized the irony of an ambulance going en route to help an ambulance. That area was 7 lanes of freeway, so even with multiple lanes blocked, traffic could still be moving fast. I'm en route, start a wrecker for the overturned ambulance. A wrecker was a tow truck with a hook, as opposed to a flatbed. Even before I got there, I knew at least one vehicle was going to need a tow, and this helped save time. While responding, I stopped all lanes of the freeway to protect the victims of the crash as well as myself. Sure enough, I found an overturned ambulance laying on its passenger side, but it was one of those van types instead of the box type. Another car was stopped in the lane directly ahead of the ambulance. One more car was stopped on the shoulder. My partner arrived and held traffic while I went up to the scene. I went to the ambulance since that was where I expected the injuries. I came across a medic in the back tidying up. Good evening, are you injured? I used to ask people if they were okay, but I've since learned that doesn't give me the answer I'm looking for. I need to know if they need medical treatment. No, I'm fine, I had my seatbelt on and I was up front. Were you transporting anyone? She replied, no, we were empty, just my partner and I. He already called our boss. Where's your partner? He should be outside taking pictures. I went outside and found the partner taking pictures as described. Sir, are you injured? No, I'm good, better than this thing anyway. He gestured to the sideways ambulance. We have a tow truck on the way, as well as an ambulance to check you out. I'm going to check on the other drivers, then I'll be back to get your information. I walked to the car ahead of the ambulance, making my way up the passenger side. Even in the dark and the rain, I saw it had scrapes on the right front fender that appeared new. I knocked on the window, and the driver rolled it down. Good evening, ma'am. Are you injured? She was a bit frantic. Oh, thank goodness. No, I'm fine. I was just driving, and I needed to take the exit, so I looked over and didn't see anything. It looked clear, so I started to move and... She stopped and tilted her head. This is just another Tuesday for you, isn't it? I wasn't sure what she meant. I'm sorry? Like, this is your day job. This is totally normal. I chuckled. Well, this is the first overturned ambulance I've been to, but sure, it's just a crash. So far, no one is hurt, so it's going pretty good. You were saying? Yeah, I looked over and I didn't see anyone, so I started moving. But then I suddenly saw a car there, so I swerved back. Then I lost control and I must have hit the ambulance, and now we're here. Well, I'm glad you're okay. I directed her to move her car to the shoulder, wait in her car, and get her information. Oh, and she totally did a pit maneuver on an ambulance by accident, which I found kind of funny. Nothing unusual in the third car. When the other car swerved, she swerved back too far and sideswiped a car in the lane to her left, then swerved to the right and hit the ambulance. No injuries, some mild scrapes to her car. The tow truck eventually showed up and flipped the ambulance back on its wheels, then towed it away. On to the next one. Jumping down to the comments on this one, there's one from a user called Eclipse Industries. It says, that almost sounds like an anxiety technique a therapist would teach someone with social anxiety. It's just another Tuesday for them. That's an interesting concept because this person stopped right in the middle of telling OP what happened to say to them, it's just another Tuesday for you. So yes, it very much so could be a coping technique to calm themselves down, realizing that it's not that big a deal, and to be able to finish telling them what happened. The two medics in that ambulance were incredibly lucky to not be injured in this crash, and, well, thank you to them for everything they do. This story comes to us from a police officer called Throwaway 1312DK. Violent felon tries to outrun the police on a bicycle. I was patrolling the medium-sized town I work in when we are dispatched to an ongoing fight only 2 kilometers from our location. We drive using lights and sirens to the address. Underway, we drive up a very steep hill and observe a man bicycling at a high rate of speed downhill away from the crime scene. We suspect that he is the perpetrator, but due to our close proximity to the crime scene, we continue onwards, since we need to verify if people are injured or a fight is still ongoing. Upon arriving, the victim and a witness run out from the address. I quickly ask them if it is about the man on the bicycle, which they both confirm. We turn around and drive after the suspect, who is now a kilometer away and still pedaling at full speed. We quickly gain on him and order him to stop, which he ignores and drives through a red light. At this point, we're nearing a more densely populated area, and have heard updates from dispatch that he is a violent felon with a long history of violent crimes. He also has an active warrant. We deem it necessary to stop him from escaping, so we cut him off with our patrol vehicle, so he crashes into the back and tries to escape on foot. I quickly catch him and get him on the ground where he is still fighting, so my partner helps with the arrest and we place him into handcuffs. At this point, we discover that the suspect had 3 smaller bottles of liquor in his jacket pocket. They had shattered during the arrest and resulted in a 10 centimeter and quite deep laceration in his left thigh and a 5 centimeter laceration in his left hand. We pull him to the sidewalk and render first aid while we call an ambulance. The ambulance arrives after a couple of minutes and I ride in the back with him to the hospital for treatment. My partner and I are proud of ourselves, but know that an eventful shift like this requires a bunch of paperwork. So while we were supposed to get off shift at 2300 hours, we ended up writing reports through the night, and when I leave the station at 0400 in the morning, the sun is rising yet again. Jumping down to the comments on this one, there's one from a user called Meow Ha Ha Ha. It says, why did they make y'all stay so late and do paperwork? I bet they aren't giving you extra hours off later. How is anyone able to make decent snap judgments under high intensity situations when deprived of sleep? I'm sure it's smart to write up a detailed incident report before forgetting all the bits and pieces. There is most likely much more paperwork than that, eh? OP responded to this one and said, normally we don't write all the reports on the shift. In this case, it is because we had to go to trial within 24 hours, which is our maximum allowed time to have someone arrested. In our laws, the accused have the right to be tried in the courts of all the crimes they are charged for at the same time. This means that we had to write the following reports to use in the courts the next day. Threats toward a witness, disorderly conduct, fleeing from police, resisting arrest, driving the wrong way on a bicycle, handheld device while on a bicycle, passing a red light on a bicycle, in possession of a prohibited weapon. In cases where they are not tried the next day, we can wait with our report writing until we are on shift again. Our overtime is taxed with 1.5 hours per hour, so in pure overtime, I got 8 hours and 15 minutes. Besides that, we have a union that says that if we work into our day off, we are honored with 9 additional overtime hours, which we can use at a later date to get a paid day off. So in total, this amounted to 17 hours and 15 minutes of overtime, which is more than 2 paid days off. And yeah, you are right, when a suspect is injured and we chose to stop him with our car, we have to articulate why it was necessary in case we are charged with violence because of this. OP articulated the hours a little more clearly in another comment where they said that there was the drive to the hospital, then they guarded him at the hospital for a few hours, then they went back to the station, which was a 40-minute drive away, and spent 3.5 hours on report writing. The whole incident from arriving on scene to apprehending the suspect took 6 minutes, and then hours upon hours of report writing and guarding. This is one of the reasons why I love this subreddit, because you hear a lot of the parts of police work and whatnot that you never would have known being somebody on the outside. This story comes to us from a suspect called Satan Scotty. The time I got pulled over in the UK. I'm American and had been living in a moderately sized city in Scotland for 6 months. I was driving through the city and came to a short single-lane road with a sign. The sign was a white circle with a red border and a picture of a car inside. My American brain said, "Oh, that means this street is for cars." Nope, it meant exactly the opposite. So my dumb butt cruises right by the marked cop car sitting just outside and goes through that street. They immediately get behind me and put their lights on. I just kept driving because I assume they're not after me. After a turn or two, they're still right behind me. Oh, this one must be for me. I pulled over and the cop directed me to the back of his police van, which had a single seat in the back as kind of an interrogation space. The cops very diplomatically asked something along the lines of, "What the F are you doing? Getting pizza? We've been watching this bus-only thoroughfare because we've received complaints of cars cutting through it." It was only then that I realized how I effed up. I elected not to tell them that I misinterpreted the sign. I was not confident that they would just let me go after admitting that I didn't know how to follow the traffic laws. I handed him my Missouri driver's license. Cop looked at it and hasn't even heard of the place. Missouri? Why don't you have a valid driver's license? Oh crap, I got flustered. They told me that I had a year. This was true. The cop hung his head and conceded, yes, the system clearly needs to communicate this better. He made me verbally promise 3 times that I would immediately go take the driving test and get a proper license. They make Americans take the driving test because they know we're crap drivers. He shook my hand and said, "Welcome to the UK," and let me go. He was an officer and a gentleman. Jumping down to the comments on this one, there's one from a user called Radio Tunnel. It says, "They make Americans take the driving test to teach them how to read the road signs you misunderstood." OP responded and said, "Yes, and we cannot do roundabouts, and by their standards, we are crap drivers." OP, I'm not sure that's completely true. I mean, we can do roundabouts. It's just that over there, they're all friggin' backwards because they drive on the wrong side of the road. One thing I want to mention for this story was that OP just continued down this road when the cop car was behind them with the lights on. If any cop car is behind you with its lights on, you pull over as far as you can to the side of the road, because if they're not for you, they need to get around you to get to where they need to go. This story comes to us from a deputy sheriff named Yankee39 PMR. Things at the courthouse scanner. In the late 90s, I worked as a deputy sheriff. One of the functions is to secure the courthouse. This was done by metal detectors, an x-ray machine, and wand scanners in the lobby of the courthouse. At the time, only county row officers and courthouse employees had swipe badges to avoid the line and the scanners. A deputy was still there to check bags for weapons, but it was brief. The general public and defense attorneys, witnesses, etc. had to queue and pass through the gauntlet. So there are 5 deputies in the lobby scanning and checking bags, wanding people, etc. I rotated to the x-ray machine. First woman up is well known, about 5'4", 230 pounds, and carrying a bag the size of a suitcase. She's a frequent flyer for paid adult things and substance charges, so we have to do extra screenings of her belongings as she's entering the courthouse. She greets everyone and dumps her bag into 2 bins to go through the scanner. She passes through the detector, setting it off with various pieces of jewelry, keys, the poor high heels she was wearing that looked like they were going to compress into black holes. You name it, she has. While that's going on, I'm checking the bins through the x-ray machine. I see several oddly shaped objects with what looks like electrical circuitry in the bin. So on to manual checking. Now, due to the shenanigans, the line is backed up and I have to manually search the bin. As it comes out, full of worn thongs, bras, and other lingerie. Thank God for gloves, right? So I have to pick up each item, check it, and so forth. As I'm trying not to retch from this stinking pile of worn underwear, lo and behold, the first suspicious item appears. Can you guess? I dare you to guess. If you guessed a dirty adult device with some kind of pump, you win. Our frequent flyer goes, "Oh, I didn't have time to wash it. My last client liked to watch me with it," in front of about 20 people in the lobby. Alright then, continue to work through this pile of stuff and come across another obviously used personal device. And then another. And then another. Ultimately, had her pack dirty toys, underwear, and everything else into her bag and sent her on her way. Took the bins out of service and proceeded with moving people along. And wouldn't you know it, a younger female attorney was in line, saw the debacle, excused herself outside, and came back sans briefcase. Can't say for sure what was in that case, but I have my suspicions. Jumping down to the comments on this one, we have one from a user called Wing in Vegas. It says, "You know that attorney had something to relieve her stress from being in court all day." I, just have nothing to say after this story, so let's get on to the next one. This story comes to us from a suspect named Wrench and Repeat. The time I got a ticket for helping a friend. This was around 2010 or so. My college buddies and I were hanging out one day after class. My friend Z mentions that it's a nice day and would like to shoot some footage for his film class. He planned on making a music video of sorts. One part of the video involved footage from a vehicle driving through the old part of our college town. He has an old Ford pickup and thinks it'll be perfect to film from the bed while one of us drives. I volunteer to drive while Z and our buddy A sit in the bed. We head out and all is well, driving through town at around 25 to 35 miles per hour. Z and A are discussing shots and I'm just enjoying driving the old Ford. We get into the heart of town and out of the corner of my eye, notice a town cop whip in behind me, lights blazing. I'm perplexed, as I was going the speed limit or under and obeying all traffic laws. I pull into a bank parking lot and wait for the officer to reach my door. "Good afternoon, any idea why I stopped you?" "No idea, officer, unless the speedo in this old truck is way off." "No, you weren't speeding. It's illegal to have passengers in the bed of your truck." I was dumbfounded. I had no idea. I'm not from here. I just go to school here. This is my buddy in the back's truck, and I'm just helping him get footage for a project." "I see. You have your license and proof of insurance?" At this point, Z hops out of the bed and retrieves his insurance from the glove box. I give it and my license to the officer, and he returns to his patrol car. I'm nervous, but honestly not worried, because it was an honest mistake, and the officer seemed really chill. After 5 minutes, he returns. "Here's a citation for having passengers in the back of a moving truck. This is the fine, where you can pay, court date, yada yada. Any questions?" I'm struggling to form words. No, I'm good." Officer leaves and we all pile into the regular cab truck. What the heck? It's illegal to ride in a truck in this state? Note all 3 of us were from the neighboring state, so didn't know all of this state's laws, aside from their outdated alcohol purchasing laws. Z tells me it's fine, that he'll show up to the court date with me, and if I end up needing to pay the fine, he'll cover it. Cool. In the days leading up to my court date, I did some research, as I found it really hard to believe it was illegal in this state to ride in the bed of a truck. As it turns out, it's legal at the age of 14. Heck yeah, case closed. No idea why the officer wrote me a ticket when it's legal, but I didn't think more into it. I was innocent, and that was all that mattered. I printed out the page from the state's government page listing the statute and tucked it away for the court date. So the court date arrives and I get there a little early. I message Z and he replies, "Sorry man, I had a class I can't miss, can't be there." Well, F. So I go into the courthouse and see a line formed. A lady at the front explains that before seeing the judge, you have a chance to speak with the city prosecutor to work out a deal. Depending on your charge, you may not end up having to go before the judge. So I'm standing there in line, listening to the DA discuss deals with the folks in front of me. First guy has a DUI, DA and him discuss options. They agree on one, sign some stuff, and he's done. Next guy, another DUI. Third guy who is in front of me, there for DV. The DA is being professional, discussing their options and making deals with them. The whole time I'm thinking, darn, this is gonna go well. These other guys are here for some pretty serious crap. The DA is chill and professional. Mine is going to be a breeze. Eventually, I'm next. I walk up to the window and lay down my ticket and my paper with the state statute on it. The DA brings up my case number. He then asks me to explain. I got this ticket helping a friend with a college project. I was driving his truck and they were riding in the back filming. I was confused as to why I was ticketed, so I found the state statute stating that it's not illegal if over the age of 14. At this point, the DA's whole demeanor changes. He becomes visibly angry. Well, it may be legal in this state, but this town has a statute that says it's not in any way, shape, or form. Do you have any idea how dangerous it is to transport someone in the bed of a truck? I had a family friend who died in an accident because they were riding in the bed of a truck. At this point, I just want to crawl into a hole. I'm never in trouble with the law, and this guy is making me feel like the biggest piece of crap. I had no idea. I was just helping my friend. I had no idea it was a town statute. I wasn't driving recklessly. I don't care whose truck it was or what you were doing it for. You put your friends' lives in danger. I'm going to dismiss the charge, but mark my words, if I see you in here for this again, I'll put you in prison. I'll put you in prison for life. I remember feeling like I was in some sort of a fever dream. I left the courthouse and could not wrap my head around what had just happened. Did he really just tell me that? Why was I treated like a potential mass murderer? 3 other dudes talked to that DA before me for crimes way more serious than mine. Drunk driving and DV got normal, professional courtesy. But I get treated like I'm effing human waste? Not to mention that in this state and town, it's completely legal to ride a motorcycle without a helmet. So why isn't that DA campaigning for helmet laws when all those people are putting themselves and passengers in the same amount, if not more danger? I spent the next few days amazed at what had happened. Needless to say, I never drove a truck with passengers in the back in that town again. Sure as heck didn't want to end up in prison for life. Jumping down to the comments on this one, there's one from a user called StealthMan13. It says, I wonder if he was intentionally trying to scare you into considering this safety. Like he understands your situation and decided to go overboard to ingrain the point. OP responded and said, I mean, I could see that, but honestly, he could have been somber and explained how he lost a close friend to that, and I really shouldn't be doing it even if it's legal. That would have driven the point home for me more than overreacting and threatening to send me to prison. This one brought back a memory for me of riding in the back of my friend Tim's truck when I was in my early 20s. There were 4 of us in the bed of that truck, and we rolled into downtown Belleville, Ontario, Canada, and got pulled over by a police car. We thought we were done because we assumed we weren't allowed to be in the back of that truck. Funnily enough though, we were only pulled over because he apparently rolled through a stop sign, and the cop wasn't very happy about that. Once they were done their discussion and they let him off with a warning, they told us all to get back in the back of the truck, be safe, and enjoy the rest of our day. Apparently the rule back then was if all the seatbelts in the cab were in use by people, then other people could be in the back of the truck. I'm sure that's changed by now because this was just over 20 years ago, but we got away and we were happy. Alright, I think we'll end this one here. If you enjoyed this episode of Police and Suspect Stories, make sure to let me know in the comments down below if you're on YouTube or on Spotify. I thank each and every one of you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.